Right, welcome back, and let me again welcome our guest, Dr. Emad Adly, head of the Egyptian Sustainable Development Forum. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you.
Before I go into a reading to the President's statements before the session of the Sustainable Development, let me here take your reading to the importance and significance of the 76th UN General Assembly's meeting that is taking place, and particularly the session of sustainable development. We're speaking here that it comes at the backdrop of a pandemic, a world pandemic, of climate change that is really reflecting heavily on the economies, and also at the backdrop of many conflicts, armed conflicts. So how do you view the significance of such summit and meeting of this world body?
As you can see, the meetings is the number 76, which means that it has been organized for 76 years at least, or rounds, which is also a very important stop at the global level, where the leaders of the world, they come and they express their feelings about how the UN as a system, as a global organization, was able to face and deal with the challenges and also support the efforts that are going on with in the different regions, developing countries and the least developed countries and so on. So it is normally that when we listen to the leaders in any of the sessions of the UN sessions, which normally it is in September of every year, we always hear the very top important issues that are dealing with the global situation. Of course, as you rightly said, the session comes in the middle of a pandemic that is affecting the whole world economy, that is also affecting our region with all the conflicts that we have in the region. Most of the conflicts in the world are within this region where we are living in. We have in our region the only country in the world that has been still occupied until now in the 21st century, Palestine. So with all this, we have the challenges of climate change, we have the challenges of poverty, we have the challenges of the economic, problems in different regions. So the session come this year with, a very, I would say, hot timing, because it's many things happening at the same time. But it's also, if we compare this September with last September 2020, before we had the vaccines, before we had at least some, hopes for the, overcoming this pandemic, or at least being able to adapt ourselves and the communities. I would say that this year, from the pandemic point of view, it is a little bit less than the situation last year in 2020, but still, it is a big challenge at the health, which is one of the main elements of the SDGs. If you want to achieve sustainable development, the core issue of this is to maintain the health of the planet. The health of the planet means human beings, means the plants, the green coverage of the planet, animals, and so on. And this is why the three together, when they come as top priorities, the pandemic and with the challenges we are facing related to the climate change and to the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, which when we adopted them in 2015, we thought that we have enough time, 15 years until 2030, to finish them or to achieve them. And now we are almost 2022, halfway through. And that we were able to achieve 50% after almost 7 years, 50% of the goals or 50% of the targets of the goals. I don't think so. So this is why And today, when we heard the statements by His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, he was very clear about the position of Egypt. He was speaking. I was really happy to hear what he's saying, because he is reflecting exactly what we want to say publicly and to the globe. The rich countries, the developed countries, are not taking the issue seriously until now.
They are not taking the responsibility, or assuming the responsibility in the proper.
So this is why you cannot come at the global level, at the UN level, and you talk about the challenges and you tell countries to meet their commitments, while the people who have the wealth, they have the technology, they have the knowledge, they have all this, they are not putting, and they got all this because of how they use the environment, how they use the planet to make all this wealth.
Actually, here we're speaking about the climate change. Right?
Somehow.
His statements during the climate change.
Yes.
Yes.
And the SDGs as well. Because when it comes to the SDGs, we have 17 goals, starting by the poverty, ending by the international cooperation. To achieve any of these goals, and when it comes to education, when it comes to health, when it comes to gender, when it comes to environment, when it comes to economy, when it comes to industry, to do all this, you need the technology, the knowledge, and the finance. And the president today, he was talking about the finance in the two statements. He was talking about the responsibility of the rich countries to support and to provide the needs and the tools that we need at the developing countries and the least developed countries to be able to achieve these goals. We cannot go back to our communities and tell them, okay, after 15 years, oh, we tried, but we failed. And this will affect the whole globe. It is not only one country problem, it's not only one region problem, it is a global problem. And this is the importance of the UN meetings, that you discuss this as one family. The UN, in this case, when we have all the heads of the states, they are talking as heads of the countries, but together they form the family of the globe, the family of the planet. How this family can sit together and solve our problems, this is where the UN meetings are important to every one of us.
How fair is the representation of each part of the family inside this body is also
very important. Exactly.
Right. From this context, the president has really discussed Egypt's part, particularly when we come. Let's speak first about the session of the Sustainable Development. So when the president said, respectively, as you said, here that there are the SDGs and that the world or the international community at large should be integrating in order to be able to implement those goals. He said that Egypt really started with doing its part of the mission. And he spoke about Egypt's Vision 2030. How far was 2030 a vision that really goes in parallel with the SDGs or the world or the UN SDGs that were put, and how far did Egypt get along with implementing the vision?
Look, Egypt was one of the very few countries that adopted its own vision in few weeks after the global SDGs were adopted by the UN. So before the end of 2015, President Sisi was carrying in his hand the Egyptian vision for 2030, how we are going to implement the SDGs. Of course, we are trying in many channels and many sectors to do this. It's not an easy issue. If you are talking about poverty, it's not only that you are providing, money for people. It's poverty is, a result of many things related to, community development, related to education, to health, and so on, infrastructure, and so on. So, from the government point of view, we were able to have, and we succeeded to have, the Egypt Vision 2030 at the very early stage. At the global level, We are one of the few countries that until now we submitted 3 voluntary reports about how we are able to achieve or how we were able to implement the SDGs, which means that Egypt is among the very few countries that also reporting at the global level. At the civil society level, this is where I come from, the Egyptian Sustainable Development Forum, we were even, you will not imagine, the Egyptian Sustainable Development Forum was formed in 2012, 3 years before the United Nations adopted the SDGs. We were 3 years ahead of the global movement. And we had in our Egyptian Sustainable Development Forum, we had 14 elements for our, or 14 sectors for our forum. They cover almost the 17 goals that came 3 years later by the United Nations. What we need here and what we are seeing here now with all the infrastructure projects that we are seeing at the, roads, issues related to transport, issues related to the villages in Egypt, the big project on the villages development in Egypt, the project on the new 1.5 million faddans, the issue of new communities for the Manat El Ashwaya, for the squatter areas. Yes. All these activities are coming together at the same time. A lot of investment, a lot of good vision, and also of work to be done, and we are trying to tackle by doing this all different aspects. Look at the 100 million health program that covering all the Egyptians in different ways. What we did with the virus C, for example, and stopping the virus C of the invasion that we had of virus C in our community. Even within COVID-19, Egypt was also one of the countries that was able to achieve a lot of targets in this, and we have now the issue of vaccination is going in a very good way, and the number of people getting vaccinated is getting almost at the same level of the world or international figures. So health-wise, we are doing very well. Education wise, we are doing very well. Look at how many universities, for example, were established in the last couple of years, especially the new universities in the new communities. So education is going, how far Egypt was able to do things for women empowerment. This is one of the elements also that has been taken internationally as a good model happening at the globe. So from the different aspects, we are doing a lot. But still the global support is not the one that we were hearing about while we were discussing the SDGs 7-8 years ago, when everyone was saying that we are going to work together, and this is goal number 17. Without the international cooperation and the international partnership, we cannot do everything by ourselves. We need also the support from other, especially the developed country and the rich countries.
Very much indeed, and this is how the president briefly spoke it out to the whole world of how important this session or this convening of this round of the UN General Assembly. Here I may just quote the president here as saying that poverty, unemployment, complicated political circumstances in several places around the world, the impact of the climate change on water, COVID-19 on economic and health conditions, all have become daily challenges. And he here gave an example of one of the strategies that were put by Egypt in order to be able to take the life of citizens to another standards, or a better life standard. And he spoke about one initiative, which is Haya Karima, or decent life. Mm-hmm. But he specified decent life as a whole integrated initiative for Egypt. How far do you think that those initiatives did help the country sustain with the sustainable development goals, and how far has Egypt worked with a vision not only for Egypt, but rather to the whole continent?
Very good. Look, the whole idea of sustainable development is an ethical approach in which we try to have decent life for everyone on earth. So if I'm talking about my country, I can say, you know, I want to have decent life for all Egyptians, but I can also think about my family, which is the very small part of this, that I want to have decent life for my family. But when I think about my decent life for my family, the very good thing about, and this is why it's an ethical approach, that you are not talking only about people that live now, but you are talking about also next generations.
Yes.
So when you are thinking about decent life, and the whole idea of the SDGs is how to provide a decent life for everyone,
yes,
and for all generations. So this initiative, Decent Life, it's a model that comes as, you know, an integrated model where you are doing and you are tackling all the different aspects to make, what do we mean by decent life? Decent life means that I have a decent house, I have a decent education, I have a decent health, I have health centers or health coverage, I have a decent road, I have a decent communication, I have a decent media, I have a decent, you know, decent everything, decent treatment.
I have a decent home.
A decent home, that's what I started with. So this is why when you look at the Decent Life program, it's, yes, it focuses mainly on the money, most of it go to, you know, the infrastructure to show that the life is different. And even when you look at the TV and you see the people where they were living before and then where they live after, you say, oh, big difference. But the most important part of it is the human being. You want to change the human being. So if you are doing all this and the human being is still thinking the way that was behind why we are poor or why we were behind the world steps, this will remain another challenge. This is why this is not only the role of the government. The government may put a lot of efforts on the infrastructure, but when you think about, you know, the minds of the people, because the decent life will come how they behave, how they deal with all the ingredients that we are offering them. And this is why we need to have all different actors, civil society, private sector, media, again, as I said, parliamentarians, universities, schools, all together to make this kind of a change, because
yes,
we need to change the mindsets to be also decent mindsets.
Indeed. Speaking about decent mindsets and speaking about investing in human capital, which is the source of richness of this country, let me first take this quick report. And Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry is participating in person in the United Nations or the UNGA meetings there. Let's watch this report and come back.